What's up, boys? Today I wanted to make a video and talk to you all a little bit about two of my main concerns going into Dragonflight. Now, I think that a lot of you guys have been seeing this. I've been talking about it. Other people have been talking about it. People have been posting about it. There's a very good chance that we could get the alpha for Dragonflight this week. People are saying Thursday. I hope it's sooner. Honestly, it can't come soon enough. What is it, 5 months until the game's supposed to be released? I'm getting a little bit nervous, okay? Now, I do think that there is a possibility that they could release this game and it could actually be ready. Now, is it something I would bet on? No, not necessarily. However, I do think that it's possible. Why do I think that? Well, it's very simple. You don't have conduits, covenants, soulbinds, Shadowlands legendaries, and probably something else that I didn't think of. All of these things that you all have to balance across 3 or 4 different spectrums of content. And yeah, guess what? I bet it's going to be pretty hard to do that, to balance all those things properly. And I think Blizzard does their best generally, but it's really an impossible task. So taking all of those things, taking all those little micro systems that we get for every expansion, they go into the garbage, and just putting them into the garbage proactively for the next expansion, great idea. And anyway, I think it causes, it's like a force multiplier on development time whenever you have these things, because of all the unintended and just incidental interactions between the pieces. So anyway, what are my main concerns going into Dragonflight? What are the main things that I'm worried about and concerned about? There are 2 main things. Number 1 is going to be how Blizzard responds to feedback and how they iterate systems that do exist in the game. And the second thing is going to be the alts content and how people play alts in Dragonflight. These are the 2 main things, and I think that we're going to talk about responding to feedback in a broader sense first, then we're going to move into the alts. So the main problem that I think that Blizzard has with many games, whether this is StarCraft 2, whether this is Diablo 3, whether it was mini Warcraft expansions, and whether it was Overwatch, I think that Blizzard generally ships a relatively good game, and then they either do too much or not enough to correct for problems with the game, because metas form, unbalances, and bad design is then discovered basically, and this is really of no fault of Blizzard in many cases. It's just how games go. And so whenever they shape up the meta and try to change it up, sometimes it just fucks everything up, and you end up with 5 tanks in one team in Overwatch, or you end up with 1 tank on a team, which, by the way, I think is too many, in Arena in WoW. And you have all these weird things happen, and in general, I think Blizzard is relatively decent, I would say, at shipping a good game, at least, for the sake of it being a release product. What they have a problem with, however, is maintaining the live development and live service aspect of that game. And that's what I have the main concern with, and that's what I'm mostly worried about with Dragonflight. I think that what's going to happen is that, let's be honest, there are going to be things that are going to be released in Dragonflight and systems that are going to be in the game that are probably going to be fucking garbage. And why do I think that? Well, I don't think that because Blizzard's incompetent. I think that because every game has garbage systems like this on release, because many times they're not tested by players. And again, everybody has a great idea, and then whenever 1 million people start playing it, suddenly things are a little bit different. So I hope that the main thing is that they will hear this feedback that players are giving, and they will actually respond to it proactively. Because what happens, and what happens? You mean what happened? What's happened with Legion, BFA, and Shadowlands is that there have been obvious fucking problems. Legendary problems in Legion, BFA was Azerite and the Necklace, and then Shadowlands was Covenants and Conduits and things like this. These were obvious fucking problems that everybody saw. Some of these problems, we saw these before the alpha even came out, especially with Shadowlands, but Blizzard was like, oh no. Oh, no, see, you don't understand. It's going to be totally different whenever you start playing the game. Well, guess what? People play the game and it's not. And so people got pissed off about that. And I think that Blizzard did the one thing that I feel like every developer needs to avoid doing more than anything. And it's the thing that happened with New World, is that Blizzard earned the resentment of players with doing this, because people felt like the game was intentionally wasting their time. And do you know why they felt that way? It's because it was. And so whenever we're going to Dragonflight, they really, really, really need to make sure this doesn't happen. I'm talking about, like, I'm going to be very outspoken. I think everybody should be very outspoken about if there's some system in the game that it's like, hey, we're giving you this car, but it only has 3 wheels, and everybody's like, oh, why don't you put on the 4th wheel? And they're like, well, we'll see what happens. And then the 4th wheel gets put on in patch, I don't know, 10.25, and they say, we hear you. I don't want to fucking hear that. I want to hear it very, very early on. I want the game to release in a finished state. I don't want to have to beta test a shit system for 6 months before they get it fixed. It's not, it's making me mad even thinking about it, okay? So yes, I do not want to have to deal with that. I'm very concerned with that, and I hope that certainly does not happen, but we will have to see. Anyway, so that's also that's a big factor, and on top of that, I think that just in general, being able to iterate and change these systems based off of player behavior, and I think that is something that's going to make a bigger difference than anything else, because I think that a lot of times, like, one of these expansions comes out, WoW expansions on release are generally pretty fun to play. I think that if you value your time at $1 an hour, if you are a WoW player, keep this in mind. Like, if you play Fortnite, maybe you might not have that much fun. But if you're a WoW player, I think that you will generally get your money's worth whenever you buy into expansion. I even got that with WoD, because, well, I guess half the time there was spinning the queues. But anyway, it was a bad time. But what I am mainly concerned about, again, is the systems staying in the game longer than they have to, and then for them to be not iterated upon. Like, the one thing that I don't want to see happen is I don't want to see an obviously broken system be shipped into the live game and Blizzard to fix it for content halfway through the patch. That is the one thing I don't want to see. And the reason why is because it goes back to what I said about people feeling like their time is being deliberately wasted. You see it, I see it, everybody fucking sees it. There's no secret, there's no, oh, I'm not really sure if, like, I don't know, it really depends on how you want to look at things. No, it's obviously fucking bad, and that's why they change it. And so basically, just respond to the feedback on alpha and beta a lot faster. That's mainly the first thing. And the second thing that I want to talk about is alts. Now, alts have always been this, like, weird thing that Blizzard, I think that, like, ever since the Race to World First and the amount of, like, min-maxing people do, especially for, like, competitive WoW, ever since this became, like, really popular, what ended up happening is that, like, Blizzard started trying to make it harder to play with alts and play alts in a certain way. And I think this is a bad thing. I think it's fucking stupid, to be honest with you. I think that if you go over and you play Final Fantasy XIV, go over and you play Lost Ark, one of the best things about those games is the fact that if you want to play another character, you don't have to grind your Mokoko seeds twice. You don't have to do the MSQ twice. All you have to do is level up the character, learn how to play it, do the quests for that character class, specifically your job in the case of Final Fantasy XIV, and you just play the character itself. So basically, no arbitrary roadblocks, no, oh, I've got to farm artifact power on 2 characters. Who the fuck wants to do that? It's not fun. Nobody thinks this is enjoyable. Give people more account-wide progress. I am a big fan of attunements. I think attunements and raids are cool, but I don't think they're cool if they're not account-wide. I think that a lot of things in the game function as an attunement, and it's just that they're not seen that way because it's not a pass-fail to get into the actual dungeon itself or the raid itself. But I do think that many things are effectively attunements in the game, in terms of, like, maybe getting your legendary cloak to do visions or to do N'Zoth. That is effectively an attunement, and I think that's a very good thing. However, I do think that it has to be account-wide. So I really hope, Blizzard, if you're listening to this, please make these systems, if you're going to have something like this, if you're going to have a progression system, please make them account-wide. Ian, bro, you said that people do alts to farm renown? Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? No, they don't. Like, no, they fucking don't. Like, there's no shot. And, like, for every person that does that, there's, like, 100 other people that don't. Like, I'm telling you, people, here's what my opinion is, right, with alts. I think people play alts because they want to do the raids, they want to do the PvP, and they want to do Mythic Plus. Or they maybe want to do like really cool world content, like, you know, be able to solo like certain, you know, bosses, or, you know, be able to, you know, kill like 100 mobs at a time for like a super efficient farming method. That's what I did in Mists of Pandaria, for example, with like a Moonkin or a Warlock. But I think in general, it is those three end game paths: PvP, raiding, or Mythic Plus. And if you put any barriers that are outside of doing those three things in front of making your alt and making your alt able to do those three things, you are now putting a barrier between the player and being able to enjoy what they want to do in the game. And I ask you, why? Why is this the case? Why is this happening? And I don't see any reason for it. So I would love to see a lot of these, you know, again, we hear you. And, oh, we're going to make these changes. We're listening to feedback. Well, listen to it earlier this time before people quit. The fact is that I had 8 level 80 characters back in Wrath of the Lich King. 2 reasons for that. Number 1, I was unemployed. Second reason is that it was actually fun to play alts. And I think a lot of other people did the same thing. We made characters, we leveled them up, and we did the dungeons and the raids, and, you know, we experienced playing the game through that new set of eyes. I remember whenever, I think it was patch 4.3, whenever you guys took the cooldown off Chain Lightning. Yeah, I made a fucking Elemental Shaman that day. It was awesome. And so that's the kind of stuff that I want to see people be able to do. And it was really fun because there were very few barriers to entry for me to be able to actually start playing the character in the way that I wanted to. So I think that the gear progression and all of the meta systems and account-wide, like, you know, like character progression systems, like artifact knowledge, renown, covenants, conduits, bullshit like that, make all that account-wide right from the start. And, oh, well, some person that plays the game 85 hours a week professionally might be able to get a 3% advantage because of this. Okay, that's fine. Nobody cares. Let's make the game fun instead. Imagine that. Wow. So yeah, that's the way I feel. That's what my concerns are. Listening to player feedback, and primarily in the context of alts. Alts provide a breath of fresh air into the game. They make old content new again. And they give players the opportunity to see the game through a new set of eyes, through a new window, however you want to say it. And I really hope that Blizzard is able to do this. I've got a bunch of other things I want to talk about, things like, you know, like making raid content irrelevant inside of the expansion that was made in. I think this is a big problem, but I think that all of these things are fundamentally coming down to these 2 main concerns, which is listening to feedback on a fundamental level and making alts playable with as little barriers to entry as possible, other than the consumption of the content that the alt was created to do. So, guys, I'm really excited for Dragonflight. Why? Because I played WoW for 15 years. I want to play the game. I love the game. I hope it continues to do well. And that's why I'm making this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you have other things that you'd like to see Blizzard do, or, let's be honest, other things you'd like to see Blizzard not do. Go ahead and let me know. I'm quite curious about it, but those are my main concerns. That's what I really want to see, and I guess we'll see what happens in just about a week from now. I'll see y'all later. Peace.